Two things. Thing number one. It's illegal for Nazis and Jews to hang out like we do, let alone kiss. Thing number two. It'd just be a sympathy kiss, which doesn't count.
You're not a Nazi.
I'm massively into swastikas, so I think that's a pretty good sign right there.
You're not a Nazi, Jojo. You're a 10-year-old kid who likes swastikas and likes dressing up in a funny uniform and wants to be part of a club. But you are not one of them.
Okay. Let's just agree to disagree. All right? Not a Nazi.
What a dirty joke.
Why do you think it's lovable? It shouldn't on paper work.
Okay, that was what I was gonna. That was one of my first questions. Was why did you specifically like this movie?
My first thought was this is kind of the perfect concept for a comedy. It is one of the most absurd things that's ever happened, that these kids were being conditioned in this way.
Obviously, you don't want to make light of somebody's tragedy or pain. It's funny because they're making fun of how just insane the villains were, the Nazis.
Yeah.
I just love, personally, Taika's sense of humor, which I heard in an interview. Apparently, I've been calling him Taika Waititi.
Mm-hmm.
He calls himself Taika Waititi. The first T
Waititi
is, less emphasized. Waititi.
It was a hard name to learn in the first place.
Yeah. How many Taika movies have you seen? What's your...
I think I've only seen this and the Thor movies. I started Hunt for the Wilder People at one point, and...
Very funny.
Yeah, I just couldn't get into it. I'm sure I would like it.
Yeah.
But I don't think I've watched anything else.
It's definitely lower tier out of his movies, I'd say. What We Do in the Shadows, I watched in college, and very funny. Yeah, Thor Ragnarok. Hunt for the Wilder People. And then I haven't seen Next Goal Wins.
I know. I was wondering. It looks not good.
It feels like the reviews have gotten bad, but
yeah,
I love Taika and I love Michael Fassbender, so
I kind of wonder
at some point.
I wonder a little bit what's going on with him, because it's Thor Love and Thunder was not very good. Next Goal Wins, I don't know, but it seems like people don't really like it. So I wonder if he is either creatively... It felt like with Thor Love and Thunder, the one that I did see, it felt like he thinks that we like a certain thing about his movies, and he leaned in too much into that, and it's missing a little bit of the heart.
I wondered with Thor Love and Thunder specifically if the studio stepped in and made some things, because it feels like that typically is what happens when there's a first movie that's so good and then the next one's not good. It feels like the studio steps in and makes changes. But I also wonder if he's going more, now that he's made it so big, to do Thor Ragnarok, do a big Marvel movie. I wonder if he's more in the zone of, hey, I don't care if people like it. I want to do something that's fun for me.
Yeah. Because
I know in that movie, in Thor Love and Thunder, him, Chris Hemsworth, Natalie Portman, they all made a point to involve their kids. They all have kids.
Yeah.
All their kids were in the movie. And so I kind of wonder if he was
just more in it for the experience.
Yeah, just I don't
care about the product.
Care what fans think. I'm just making a fun thing with my family. In this movie, I got two questions.
Yep.
One, the story of the dad is not
resolved.
Really resolved.
Yeah, I noticed that.
In the beginning, we hear the boy, the older Nazi boy, make fun of him, saying nobody's heard from your dad, he's a deserter.
Right.
Then we hear Jojo's perspective is that his dad's a war hero and fighting, and then we hear from Jojo's mom, Rosie, that his dad is doing what he can and doing what he needs to, and he'll be back after the war.
Right.
So what do you think the story of the dad is?
In my mind, what's going on is his dad, obviously, probably mom and dad are aligned. She obviously is doing what she can, and that's what she says whenever there's the gallows scene, the initial one where she makes him look, and she says, he's like, what did they do? She says, what they could. And so she's doing what she could. I'm imagining that dad is doing what he can, and he's fighting in the resistance. I don't know if the resistance is code for just the allies or if that's a specific thing that happened, but
Yeah, I kind of get the feeling. The fact that Jojo thinks that he's fighting for the Nazis makes me think that he probably left home as a Nazi soldier.
Yeah.
And then the fact that the older boy is like, nobody's heard from him.
Yeah.
Makes me think that he left. So like he was a double agent and got found out, or became a soldier because he had to, and then ended up leaving to fight for the other side. But I did see some things where it's understood he's dead.
Oh.
That he's been killed. So maybe they found out he was a sympathizer for the Jews and was murdered or something.
Yeah.
But there's also, so this book that Taika did the screenplay adaptation of, this movie only covers like the first half of the book.
Oh, wow.
So the rest of the book is like 10 years after the war and goes into Jojo continuing to grow up and all that.
Interesting.
The book is not funny.
I remember seeing
like
that.
The book is a serious war story.
Yeah.
So I would be interested to see in the book what happens to the dad. I'm sure they go into that more.
Yeah, probably.
Put yourself in the director chair. You are Taika and you're in charge of this movie.
Okay, I'm there.
The studio comes to you before filming has started and says, Conan O'Brien wants to be in this movie, and he has to be.
Okay, I have no choice.
You have no choice. Conan O'Brien has to be in this movie. How do you wedge him in? You can fire someone else and replace him, or you could make a character for him. Like, how do you put Conan O'Brien?
I know exactly where I'm putting him. Alfie Allen, I think his name is. You know who that is?
The tall guy?
He's like Sam Rockwell's character is kind of a right-hand man who like he's like helping
Freddie Finkel.
Is that his name in the movie? That's where I'm putting him. It would be so much funnier. Obviously, Conan anywhere in here is going to take you out of it.
Yeah.
But that to me feels perfect because he most of the time, I can't think of a scene where he's not. He's the comedic relief, so he feels perfect there to me.
Oh, that's good. That's a good.
Where are you putting him?
Great spot. I thought to put him in Stephen Merchant's Gestapo party.
Oh, that'd be wild.
As just one of the, give him a couple of lines as like,
just have him throw out a couple of Heils.
Man,
or you could make him Hitler.
You could make him Hitler. A ginger Hitler would. Taika is definitely not someone who looks like Hitler.
Yeah, totally. I don't think anybody else could have played Hitler though, in the way that he nails it.
Oh, it's so good. Okay, so on that topic of Taika being a hilarious Hitler, we've talked about why we liked the movie. Why do you think general audiences liked this movie? Like, what appealed to most people? Because it got great reviews. It got a ton of awards. It won an Oscar.
Yeah.
Got nominated for like 7 Oscars, I think. Like, people loved it.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot. I think first thing that comes to mind is the kid's performance is amazing.
Yeah. Everyone in this movie.
Everybody nails it.
I'm not typically a big Sam Rockwell fan.
Yeah, he crushed it.
Does a great job.
Yeah, he absolutely crushed it.
ScarJo does great.
Oh, she carried the movie.
Yeah. My favorite is Yorkie.
You like Yorkie?
He did a fantastic job.
Did you like him in Home Alone?
I didn't see him in Home Alone.
Yeah, he was the new Kevin McAllister in Home Alone.
Yeah, probably not the same.
No, he didn't kill it in that. I feel like, first of all, there's a gaping comedy hole. The essence of comedy is taking a taboo subject and essentially pointing out the absurdity of it.
Yeah.
And I think that's what this movie does perfectly.
Yeah. And it balances such great comedy with so much heart.
Absolutely.
Which I think is, you mentioned ScarJo carrying this movie. I think she for sure carries the emotional heart of the movie.
Yep.
It's like Jojo is this character as a child filled with so much emotion and some silliness of a child. And Taika as Hitler highlights the humor. Yep. And ScarJo as Rosie highlights the heart of the movie. And I think that's a perfect balance.
Yeah. And again, Jojo's perspective being what's being presented instead of the reality makes it all possible.
He's not Hitler. He's what a
little kid would think he is,
who grew up in Nazi Germany would think Hitler is like.
It's like, this is his hero.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's how a kid views any of their heroes, whether it's an athlete or an actor or whatever. The fact that he thinks, oh, if I do something really cool, Hitler's going to love it and we'll be best friends.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Jojo and Yorkie have that hilarious conversation in their tent.
Then We would become best friends.
I thought I was your best friend.
Yorkie, you're my second best friend. First place is reserved for the Führer. So unless you're Hitler, hiding in a fat little boy's body, I'd be happy with second place. I guess I'm just a kid in a fat kid's body.
But the fact that Yorkie is his best friend.
Yeah.
And so in Jojo's mind, Hitler is like Yorkie. Like just that he's supporting him. He's like encouraging him. Yep. He kind of thinks like him. And so until that end where he kind of gets rid of the imaginary friend, Hitler is really like Yorkie because it's just a little boy's idea of what a best friend who's super cool would be.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think the comedy of it doesn't work if it doesn't take itself seriously. Like if this was a Tommy Boy style comedy, it doesn't work because it is a subject that people aren't ready to talk about in that way. Yeah. It has to have some emotional weight to it. Exactly.
The humor lies in the silliness and just absurdity of the Nazis and the purity and the innocence of the kids.
Yeah.
You could classify this as a coming of age story. Whether this movie is about Nazi Germany or set in some other time, just Jojo's character of growing up, not having his dad around, not having many friends, having to make up an imaginary friend to kind of fill that void of a older male figure to look up to, and all that kind of stuff can be super relatable.
Yeah, and I think it's timeless. This is probably the perfect place for it because it's a kid grappling with, these are the things that I'm hearing. What do I believe for myself? You know?
Yeah. The biggest theme that I wanted to talk about, discuss, is that youthful innocence and growing up.
Yeah.
What other themes did you take note of?
The big one in my mind is loving your enemies. I would say best presented by Rosie. Her child essentially has positioned himself as the enemy ideology to herself, but regardless, she wants to dance around the living room with him and be silly and draw a beard on herself, and she does nothing to push Jojo away. She only brings him closer, and I think that you see the way that affects him, and that on like a subconscious level that influences his interactions with Elsa without him even realizing it. Because his mom is loving him in this way, he loves Elsa because that's flowing through him.
Of course, love, which, as Rosie said, is the strongest thing in the world.
Yeah.
And Jojo says,
love is the strongest thing in the world.
I think you find that metal is the strongest thing in the world, followed closely by dynamite, and then muscles.
Oh, it's so good.
Such a great line.
Yeah.
Taika did such a great job of balancing humor. It's so funny with this really impactful emotional significance.
Yeah.
It's easier to do one or the other, and it's hard to blend both, I would guess.
Yeah.
And there's so many, like the shoe tying thing, a couple of different lines that they said that really had powerful significance in the end.
Yeah.
I am not one to like actually cry in movies, like tears streaming down my face, but this movie always makes me tear up.
Yeah. Whenever he sees her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's heartbreaking. Heartbreaking scene.
It is.
But yeah, let's talk about that while we're already on the subject.
Yeah.
That the real emotional heart of the mother's love for her son.
Thinking about Rosie as a character, the image that sticks out is the way that she's always tying his shoes. And I almost wonder if there's a little bit of like a feet washing analogy there of she's bending down to serve him. She ties his shoes over and over again. And then obviously whenever she is gone, whenever she's hanging, what he does is he ties her shoe as like I'm taking up her mantle of service. And then as Elsa's about to walk out the door for the first time out into the world, he bends down and ties her shoe.
Thinking about it from a parent's perspective, it is kind of strange to me. Like, why is she kind of in a weird way like encouraging him to be a Nazi?
Yeah, she's not doing anything to like re-educate him.
Yeah. And well, there is that one scene which is honestly really powerful when they see the people hanging in the square.
Yeah.
And he looks away and she grabs his head and turns it back to make him look. And that was like the only moment where it's like, okay, she's wanting him to see how bad the Nazis are.
Yeah.
But other than that, thinking about it, I'm like, he thinks his dad is a Nazi and he thinks that's awesome. She let him go to this Nazi camp. Even after he's injured and can't be a soldier, she's taking him to work for Nazis. Like, it was kind of weird.
It feels, I think the way that I read it is, it feels like she has kind of already tried to do everything she can, and he's embraced this as such a like part of his identity that she's like, okay. She feels like maybe she's presented everything she can to him, and he's still chosen to follow what the culture's telling him. And so her last ditch is like, okay, I'm just going to love him and hopefully do what I can.
Yeah. My only kind of personal explanation for it was she does mention that he should be a little boy. Yeah. That he should be, you know, playing and stuff. And so I was thinking, I wonder if she knows once he actually starts to grow and reason, then he can make more sense of this. Yeah. But for right now, me trying to explain any of that to him is just going to be lost on him. And he's going to think that his dad is a bad guy or something. Yeah. Like kind of letting it go for now until he gets older to explain it to him.
Yeah. It's interesting. Do we feel like that's the right move?
I mean, that's not what I would do. I don't think, but it's hard to say what, you know, we would do in that scenario. But I would think like you would want to instill from as early as possible truths into your children, like consistently, constantly from the beginning, explaining to them the difference between what's right and what's wrong. Yeah. Is that what you would think?
Yeah, I think as we're talking about this, it's clear she values his trust more than she values what he believes at this stage. And you have to assume that he's a little boy pretending. And once that ends, she would maybe take a different approach. I don't think that I wouldn't take that approach.
But she is for sure the epitome in this film, the embodiment of loving others, caring for others, of caring for the poor and the orphaned and the widowed, and who is supposed to be their enemy at this time. That's the narrative.
Yeah, I think it's going to come up over and over again on this podcast, but the biblical definition of love being sacrifice. She is sacrificing her own safety, her own peace of mind. She's willing to live a life that she's going to be more fearful and experience more danger because she's willing to love and sacrifice. And ultimately, that love takes on its full form at the end whenever her life is the cost. And she understood that risk whenever she made those decisions.
Yeah. Yeah. She's laying down her own life for others. Yeah. Which no greater love. Yeah. Thinking about that right there. And in the beginning, Jojo has this way of thinking that, like we talked about, is so funny and fun to watch because it's so childish, very innocent, very pure. But he's viewing Nazis as the heroes. He's viewing Hitler as the greatest,
his best friend,
yeah, just the epitome of like cool guys to him. Yeah. Slowly, as he learns about Elsa, he learns about Jews, he realizes the lies that he's been told. And over the course of the movie is where he starts to realize all of the lies that he's believed and the truth of those lies, which is, one, Germany's not winning the war. Yeah. They're very much losing. Hitler is not the guy he thought he was. Yeah. Jews are not evil like he thought they were. And so that made me think of 1 Corinthians 13, 11 through 12, which is, when I was a child, I used to speak like a child, think like a child, reason like a child. When I became a man, I did away with childish things. For now we see in a mirror dimly, but then face to face. Now I know in part, but then I will know fully, just as I also have been fully known. Paul's talking about that idea of like, I didn't know the truth before. Yeah. I used to think in childish ways, and childish ways ultimately being selfish ways. You know, kids can't reason outside of themselves and what they want and have empathy and put themselves in someone else's shoes. Yeah. And so Paul's talking about that in that context of, I didn't know the truth and I didn't see the full picture.
Yeah.
Now I've been given the truth. I know the truth, but he's talking about I can only see in part, in like a mirror dimly lit.
Yeah.
I have the truth, but I can't see it all yet. I don't know it all. And soon I will have the full picture when we're united with God, when we're reunited and Jesus comes back, we'll be able to see everything, understand it all.
Yeah.
And that I feel like perfectly sums up where Jojo is at the end of this movie, whereas he's seen the truth of Nazis being evil, of Jews not being evil, but he's still a kid. He's not fully seeing what's going on, which maybe that's what the book gets into, is years after him kind of growing up to a full adult. But he's putting off those childish ways.
Right.
And exactly what you talked about, where he starts to step into that role that his mom had.
Yeah.
And learning empathy for Elsa.
Yeah.
Whereas in the beginning, he views her as an evil monster. Then he actually starts to like form a crush on her and like her.
Right.
And then it's embodied when he ties her shoes at the end. And so he's stepping into that role.
Yeah. The scene that comes to mind whenever you say he's beginning to understand, but he doesn't fully know yet, is whenever he is reading the letters from Nathan that he had written. And I don't remember the exact line, but it's essentially like, I've left you for another woman and I don't ever want to see you again. I'm actually not dead, and like blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And then he makes her cry. Like she runs into her little room and she cries. And up to this point, he'd been nothing but awful to her, but he sees how that affects her. And he's starting to care about her because he comes back and says whatever it is, like, oh, just kidding. He just sent another one. Like, he said that he was just joking and he doesn't want you to kill yourself because it happens all the time. And I think that that's the moment where it's like, okay, intellectually, he still thinks she's a monster. Like, on some level, he still believes that with his mind, but his heart has moved to a place where he started to at least care about her, if not begin to see her as more than just his enemy. He doesn't want her to be sad. Yeah. When she's hurt, when she's crying, he realizes, oh, I actually didn't want to do that. Yeah. I want to make her happy. Yeah. Taking that idea a step further, the idea of this comparison to Paul and what Paul's talking about. The thing that is the catalyst for Jojo to flip the switch is like we've talked about, Elsa, and he's seeing what he thought was his enemy face to face, realizing all the lies and whatnot. Yeah. That's kind of that slow, gradual thing. And then the thing that finally makes the full switch and he's, kind of has that realization moment is his mom's death. And so thinking about that, his mom was this picture of love. Yeah. And because she loved Jojo so much, but because she loved Elsa, and Elsa was kind of the second child to her, she hated the evil that was in the world, which was the Nazis and the Nazis' hatred of Jews. And because of her hatred of evil, she took a stand against it because she loved her, what you could consider her kids, which is Jojo and Elsa. Yeah. And because of that, she ended up laying down her life. Yeah. When Jojo sees that, that's what makes him fully understand the evil of the Nazis. He's flipped that switch. Yeah. But after that, there's a really important line where he's talking to Elsa and he says, talking about his mom, and he says, she hated me because I was a Nazi. He's realized the evil of Nazis. He's realized that his mom hated that evil. Yeah. And so then he still doesn't fully get it. And he thinks, oh, she hated that evil. Yeah. I am kind of an embodiment of that evil. And she died for that. Therefore, she probably hated me. And Elsa reminds him that his mom loved him. Yeah. And so in the same way, it's how some people view Christ and God hates sin and Jesus hates sin and Jesus died for sin. And because of that, and because God hates sin, people can take that on as like, oh, I'm sinful, so when I sin, God hates me. Yeah. And the truth of the matter being, no, God loves you. Yeah. And he died because he hates the sin,
but because he loves you.
Yeah.
And that is the truth in the redemption of, don't take the parents' hate of evil and therefore them losing their life as, oh, they hated you. It's that God hates the sin, but loves you. Mm-hmm. And because he loved the world, he laid down his son.
Yeah.
And I just thought that was such a cool moment where Elsa gets to remind him, no, she loved you.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so good. Yeah. And I think her line there is, I could be wrong, but I think she says, Jojo, you're not a Nazi. You're just a kid. Mm-hmm. She's saying, hey, you made this into your identity, but that's not who you are. Like you've put that label on yourself, but that's not who you are. Like you are still, a child of somebody who loves you. Mm-hmm. And that can be what defines you. Mm-hmm. You don't have to be this label you're putting on yourself.
He wants to be this Nazi because he thinks that's important. He wants to be the guy who impresses Hitler. And we can see in his childhood, it's like he doesn't have friends. He doesn't, besides Yorkie, he doesn't have
a
dad. He's kind of smaller. He's looking for that identity, and he thinks that's where he's going to find it. And in that moment right there, Elsa gets to remind him of his true identity, which is he's a kid.
Yeah.
He's a child. He's loved by his mom. And she says, yeah, exactly that. She says, you're not a Nazi, Jojo. You're a 10-year-old kid who likes dressing up in a funny uniform and wants to be part of a club.
Yeah.
He wants to be a part of something. Mm-hmm. He wants to be included.
Yeah.
And I think it's either right before that or right after that. He has the funny line of, I'm massively into swastikas. So yeah, I think I'm a Nazi. Like he still doesn't get it. He doesn't get what it means to be a part of that.
Yeah.
He has this idea of like, oh, it's this club. And like it's the cool thing to do. And I think that's everyone can relate to in some way of, and ultimately that's the lie of sin. Oh, it's fun.
Yeah.
It's a fun thing to be a part of. It's a fun thing to do. It's where you will find identity. It's where you'll fit in. It's where you will be fulfilled.
Yeah.
And the truth of it is that's the facade. It's really this evil and it's not who you are.
Yeah.
And Elsa reminds him of that, and Rosie reminds him of that.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting. That line stuck out to me too the first time, of whenever she says, you're just a kid who's looking to be a part of a club. Mm. It's like what he's really looking for is to feel like he belongs. And so the way that he sees that is, oh, this is how you fit in. You do these certain things. That's relatable to us. It's like, this is how you fit in. You do these certain things, and then you'll fit in and be a part of something. Mm-hmm. But the alternative is that you can join the resistance, right? Mm-hmm. He can follow in what his mom did in the path of love and sacrifice and the fight against evil. His whole life he's been motivated by what he's hearing from the culture. Mm-hmm. But there's another option for, hey, you can fit in over here, and there's so much more goodness in that.
Yeah, there's a joy to it.
Life is a gift. We must celebrate it. We have to dance to show God we are grateful to be alive.
Well, I want dance. Dancing's for people who don't have a job.
Dancing's for people who are free. It's an escape from all this.
And Rosie says, dancing is for people who are free.
Yeah.
It's an escape from all of this. And then Elsa tells him,
first thing she does when she's free.
She's going to dance.
Yeah.
And so he doesn't get it in those moments. And again, he thinks to fit in, he's got to be a Nazi. He's got to grow up to be this general in the army. And he doesn't understand why his mom and Elsa would care about dancing or anything like that. And then such a beautiful ending.
Yeah.
The final scene is where she comes out of the house. She's free.
Yeah.
We've seen that like we've talked about, he tied her shoes. He's following the example that his mom set. He's seeing it, and then they dance together.
Yeah.
Such a funny little kid way of dancing, too.
Yeah, so funny.
They get to enjoy the freedom of life, which is just such a good picture of, Jesus says, I came that they would have life and have it to the fullest.
Yeah.
He came to set us free.
Yep.
And so we can view it so easily as God is trying to put rules.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people think believing in God is silly. The things that seemed silly before you realize are what actually makes life so full.
Yeah, totally. I recognized the freedom analogy for Elsa, but I didn't realize that Jojo had resisted dancing up until that moment. And so it isn't until the end of this journey that Jojo's being set free as well. You know, Elsa has been in hiding, in captivity, essentially, and then she's experiencing freedom again. But in reality, Jojo has chosen his own restriction on his freedom. He's suppressed his own ability to live life to the full. And then once he takes a step of love, opens the door, lets her go, and then he's free as well. It's so beautiful.
Yeah, we see that he resisted that before when his mom is pretending to be his dad and is like, come dance with your parents.
Yeah.
And she's trying to invite him into that freedom in that moment. And I think the symbolism of dancing can also symbolize love too, versus hate. And he's like sitting at the table and he doesn't, want to do it because he's like, that's silly. And he thinks he's got to choose the path of hate, which is the Nazis and everything else. And his mom is welcoming him into the path of love, which is dancing. And so fun.
So good. And ultimately, in the end, he sees in that final, I guess, like battle that he's walking through, he sees the fruit that his culture has brought. He sees the destruction that's all around him. And he starts to realize like, oh, maybe this path that I'm walking down is not the one that I should be. Yeah.
It's kind of that example to him of like, oh, if I stay with what I wanted to do, this is where it gets me. And it's Rebel Wilson handing me bombs. It's just death and destruction. And then you see his imaginary friend Hitler come back. And when he comes back, he's not the same fun friend Hitler anymore. He sees him for who he really is. And Hitler has that moment of like anger, yelling. And Taika's German accent is very funny in this, but that's the first moment that you actually see him start to like yell and rant like Hitler actually did, further emphasizing that he's seeing the truth. And then, of course, he kicks him out the window.
I think he recognizes that he has been on a losing side this whole time. And I think that there's a comparison to be drawn of our current moment where, we live in America in 2024 and we look around and we see this celebration of all kinds of lies, right? And yet we see highest suicide rates, high depression rates. There's a losing doctrine that the lowering of oneself below others, that is something that should be avoided, right? That we need to make sure that we're good. You do you.
Take care of yourself.
Yep. Anybody who thinks different than you or who looks different than you or is different than you, you need to make sure that you are cautious around.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. The idea in the beginning of the movie that they kind of make fun of with Sam Rockwell says is like, we're losing all around, but apparently things are going great. Germany's losing the war and they're going to lose. It's inevitable at this point. But apparently the narrative that's being told is that we're doing great. We're going to win. If we continue to do what we've been doing, which is a losing strategy, it's going to get better. And then realizing the truth. And we know that Christ is going to come back. We know that Christ is going to return, is going to restore everything. So we know that is the winning side. We know how the story ends. The side of sin, the side of Satan, our enemy, is the losing side. Things are getting worse and worse. But the narrative, again, is things are going great. Double down. Just focus on yourself and just do what makes you happy. And that's what's going to fix it. When the narrative of Christ is in Luke 6:27 through 31, it says, "But I say to you who hear, love your enemies, do good to those who hate you, bless those who curse you, pray for those who abuse you. To one who strikes you on the cheek, offer the other also. And from one who takes away your cloak, do not withhold your tunic either. Give to everyone who begs of you, and from one who takes away your goods, do not demand them back. And as you wish that others would do to you, do so to them." The narrative is don't put yourself first. Don't just look out for yourself. Don't just be selfish and looking out for your own needs. look out for others, do for others as you would wish they would do for you, and taking that a step further, not to wrong others who wrong you. Show love to your enemies.
Yeah. And I think that's what resonates about this movie. Yeah. I think the thing that resonates is the idea of Rosie loving her enemies, both loving Elsa and Jojo, who she could have taken sides, but she chooses to love both. And then also, we haven't really talked about it, but Elsa, whenever Jojo is tormenting her, he's calling her names and he's just overall terrible to her. What does she do? She engages with him in conversation and she is kind to him, and she forms this like brother-sister dynamic with him that's like really silly and fun, even though he sees her as his enemy, right? But she chooses to love him anyways.
And she knows that he is the quote-unquote enemy because he's on the Nazi side, but she sees him for who he truly is, which is a kid believing a lie. Yeah. And that's not the true enemy. The real enemy is out there spreading the lie. Right. There is an enemy out there that is spreading lies that then people believe, that can make it feel like we're fighting against one another. But under Jesus has opened up the gift of freedom to everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. It's good.
So good. I love this movie so much.
5 out of 5.
5 out of 5. It's so funny. It's so heartfelt, and it feels very original.
Very original. I don't think anybody else could have pulled it off. Which I say that, if you had told me Taika Waititi is thinking about making this movie, I'd be like, he's not going to pull that off.
Yeah, and he talked about how hard it was to like get people on board.
Yeah, understandably.
Stephen Merchant, who's that tall Gestapo guy. Yeah, he made the joke of when Taika handed me this script, I thought, oh great, here we go, another story about a boy with Hitler as his imaginary friend. It's like, how many times have we heard this?
Just a classic tale.
Yeah, but like trying to pitch, hey, let's make a story about a boy whose imaginary friend is Hitler. And by the way, I'll play Hitler. Would be hilarious and very hard to try to get off the ground. But I'm glad that he did.
I'm so thankful. Thanks, Taika.
Roll credits.
Don't forget to follow us on Spotify or Apple Podcasts and on Instagram @The Credits Podcast. If you know someone who would enjoy this episode, go ahead and shoot it to them in a text. If it doesn't brighten their day, it'll certainly brighten ours.